The answer is yes or no. Doctor, but my question was very simple. It's answerable by yes or no. Yes or no? It's a very simple question.
The ultimate responsibility for the people, for the content posted, is the people that post it.
I think the doctor is evading the answer to my question. No, I'm not asking that. And would you agree that you have a responsibility to these users to keep the space you provide them free and open? You have that responsibility, would you agree?
Sorry, do we have the responsibility to keep our platforms free and open?
Yes.
Sir? I think we have the responsibility to do the best we can to balance the rights of Filipino people to free expression, but also the rights of people to have a safe space on our platforms. I believe that's what you're getting at.
Yes. And because of such, the posting of false information and misleading news, the content that harms not only the subjects of the questionable post, but also the public trust in state institutions should not be tolerated. Would you agree with that also?
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Well, the answer is yes or no.
I think, Congressman.
Would you agree with that?
Congressman, when I want to answer this question carefully.
May I know why you are going to answer it carefully?
Sir, yes, absolutely, sir. I want to say that when we come to topics like misinformation, there are different interpretations of that. And this is why we rely on third-party fact checkers to be the authoritative sources of what is true or false and to make those determinations. So that we, as a neutral platform and one that is committed to providing, again, the best we can do to balance freedom of expression and safety, are not the ones making the determination about what is true and false. So I believe that we have the proper system in place where we rely on third-party fact checkers that are internationally certified to be the authoritative sources on what constitutes misinformation. And from that point, we have the responsibility to act on the findings that those third-party fact checkers provide to us. And if they provide us the finding that that's false, then we do have the responsibility, and it is in our community standards, to make sure we've reduced that distribution of the content and properly labeled it, so anyone seeing that content knows that they are viewing something that is false, and that they can access the authoritative source of information so that they can understand what the real situation is. And I think that that's the way that we do our best to make that proper balance of providing freedom of expression, but also safety for the people of the Philippines and indeed our global community. And again, I just want to emphasize, even then we will go as far as to removing misinformation if it's clearly false and can lead to physical violence or violates elections law. Right? In those cases, we will remove it. And I think that that's the best system we've had over many years of dealing with these issues around the world, to kind of balancing to the best that we can those dueling objectives of freedom of expression and safety.
Thank you, Doctor. But my question was very simple: whether the posting of false information or misleading news, content that harms not only the subjects of the questionable post, should not be tolerated. It's answerable by yes or no. Should this not be tolerated by platforms? Yes or no?
But, Mr. Chairman, if I may. But Congressman, again, I want to just emphasize the point that people disagree. We're in a world right now when people disagree on what's true and what's not true.
Are you trying to tell this committee that you do not agree with that?
I'm trying to explain to the committee, Mr. Congressman, that the approach we have is based on remaining a neutral platform that tries our best in very difficult circumstances, in very robust democracies like the Philippines, where there are very charged political debates going on. We do our best to balance freedom of expression on the one hand and safety on the other, and that our view on the best way to do that is to rely on third parties to make the determination when it comes to true or false, or somewhere in between. And we think that that's the best way forward. And Mr. Congressman, actually, I would say, I don't think you necessarily want us to be the ones that determine what's true and false. I don't think you would want us to undertake that kind of that kind of power, basically. I think that, this is, in a democratic system, this is kind of the best balance we can possibly strike when it comes to how to moderate these types of issues on our platforms in the type of context that we have in the lead up to an election, for example. And I would just note again that we take our content moderation very seriously. We take our fact-checking program very seriously. We have 11 different channels between the government and our platforms to address any type of misinformation or other harmful content. We undertake network disruptions if we see that there's a coordinated abusive pattern when it comes to misinformation or disinformation or any type of foreign interference. And as a result of that, and I would just, again, in the last election cycle, we were given an award by Kaming for this work. And so I just have to continue to lean on that posture and on that approach as the best way that we can support the community that we have here in the Philippines.
Thank you. But as we have discussed earlier, that there are systems and controls in place to remove posts that violate community guidelines. So we can both agree that some posts do not belong on the platform.
Yes, we can absolutely agree. We can absolutely agree on that, yes.
You can agree with that
But
already?
there are some posts that don't belong on the platform? Yes, absolutely.
And as the platform itself, you would take action to remove these posts?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And
If they violate our
therefore,
community standards, we would remove them.
yes, thank you. And therefore, it's fair to say that the platform has a duty to prevent the spread of such posts because they can cause harm. Would that also be correct?
Mr. Congressman, we have a duty to act on content that violates our community standards, and in some cases, specifically if it violates local law.
No, Doctor, my point is that you have a duty to prevent the spread of such posts because they can cause harm. That's the gist of my question.
We have a duty to remove posts that we're aware of that violate our community standards, yes.
Thank you, Doctor. Now, could I say that you recognize that Meta bears some responsibility for what is shared and posted on Facebook or Instagram?
Mr. Chairman, if I may. Sir, every individual user bears the ultimate responsibility for what he or she posts on our platforms. I think that it's important to underline that
That's
point.
a given.
That's a given, okay.
Now, what I'm asking is whether Meta bears some responsibility for what is shared and posted on Facebook and Instagram. That's my question.
Yeah, so what I would say is we absolutely...
Do you?
Yes, sir, if I may. We very much believe that we have a responsibility to provide a safe platform for our users around the world, including in Philippines.
That's your obligation. But my question is, would you bear some responsibility for what is shared and posted in your platforms? Yes or no? It's a very simple question.
Sir, I just want to be really clear about this again, okay? Our responsibility is to make sure that we are doing the best we can to balance between voice and safety, okay? And the ultimate responsibility, for the people, for the content posted is the people that post it.
I think the doctor is evading the answer to my question. Any Tom, Dick, and Harry will say that it's answerable by yes or no.
Mr. Congressman, the ultimate responsibility lies with the user who posts the content.
But what I'm asking is if Meta bears some responsibility. I'm not asking whether you are the primordial entity to be responsible. No, I'm not asking that. My question is whether you bear some responsibility.
Mr. Congressman, if I may, I believe I've answered the question that I think the user bears the responsibility for what they post on our platform. Now, we have a set of community standards that we do our best to uphold because we want everyone to have a positive experience on our platforms and a safe experience on our platforms. And that's what our community standards are for. That's what our fact-checking programs are for. That's why we take these hearings very seriously. That's why we have the 11 different relationships with the government agencies in the Philippines so that harmful content can be reported to us. And I think that's how we do our best, like I said, to ensure that people have a voice and the freedom of expression while also a safe experience. But as I said, I think the ultimate responsibility for content lies with the user that's posted it.